Hello, am I heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it clear?
Yes.
Oh, is it clear, Chrissy?
Yes, ma'am. Loud and clear.
Loud and clear. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat, no? So my pleasant morning greetings, of course, to the Beatrice Dean of the College of Education and Foundation University, Dr. Linda Kalimpang. Thank you for giving us opportunity to meet our fourth year students, I guess fourth year students, and of course the faculty and staff of College of Teacher Education and Foundation University. Maklaro ra ba, Chrissy? Madungog ra ba ko?
Yes, ma'am. Madungog lang, ma'am.
Okay, so my pleasant morning greetings also, of course, to our education program supervisors in the mother tongue, Miss Catherine Sidelio, who had just shared to you on how Marumpa approach is um, being taught, no? And Dr. Elisa Baggio, who will be in a while sharing to us how we are going to develop numeracy, no, among our learners. So my pleasant greetings also to our um, faculty and staff. I've seen my friend Gwen here, Gwendo, ngayong buntag. So let me share to you. A while back, Miss Catherine Sibilio had shared to us the Marongko approach. I happen to be one of the students in one of the scholarships that I had attended in University of the Philippines. The author of Marongko approach was one of our professors. And she also had Kuchongko, no? our professor in that. And she introduced Marongko approach. And we used that when I taught not the elementary level for grade one and for grade three because I was also assigned in grade three. I used that Marumpa approach and it was very effective, most especially in building basic literacy skills, beginning reading to our learners. So thank you very much, Miss Kathy, and I hope everybody has learned something from Marumpa approach. It was actually a very good program, most especially in teaching basic literacy in the mother tongue and in Filipino. So this time, just like what Ma'am Kathy had said, no, if we are going to recall the steps of teaching Marunko, still we are starting it from the basic, introduce the letter, and then along with the letter are the pictures, no? The pictures with initial sounds of the introduced letter. Just the same with the fuller approach. I'll be sharing to you how the fuller approach is being introduced, most especially to our learners who are starting to read. I hope the slide is already flashed. Nakita na ba?
Yes, ma'am. Visible.
Thank you very much. No? I would like to have it shown as a slide, a slideshow. How about that? Is it working?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so thank you very much, friends. No? Let me start my introduction of the fuller approach in teaching beginning reading with the following objectives. It's so big here. So objective number one, can you see it? Murag dako ra pud kaayo, no? Or how is it?
Readable lang, ma'am.
Good, very good. So my first objective here is we are going to, I hope the audience would be able to discuss the steps in developing the beginning reading skills using the fuller approach. And then hopefully we can decide, our lecture is an hour lecture. But I hope in the afternoon we can design support instructional materials so that we'll be able to use it in developing the different uh, basic literacy skills in reading. And then uh, we would also like to develop our soft skills now on being industrious in creating or designing support materials to develop the beginning reading skills. So these are the objectives, and hopefully at the end of the day, our objectives will be achieved, most especially on the discussion on the steps on how we are going to develop beginning reading skills among our learners using the Fuller approach. Sorry, I've got to close the office now. All right, so let's proceed. Let me start with the first quotation, which was shared to us by the very good friend of Mam Gwendolyn, si Mr. Victor Hugo. He said that to learn to read is to light a fire. Every syllable that is spelled is a spark. I would like to ask Mom Bell, no, Bell McKinley, Miss Bell. If Bell is there, I hope Bell is listening.
Yes, ma'am.
I hope Dell is listening. Dell, hello Dell.
Yes, ma'am.
I only have few students here on the screen, no? So I have seen Giselle Montesino, I have seen Dell, and those are just the names of the students that I can see in my screen. So, Miss Dell, please share your thoughts about what Sir Victor had shared to us. That to learn to read is to light fire, and every syllable that is spelled is a spark.
So for me, ma'am, what I have understood from Victor Hugo when he said that to learn to read is to light a fire, and then every syllable that is spelled is a spark. So when we read, of course, we have to understand what we are reading. So with this means that it lights a fire because um it it brings a fire to our minds that when we read also we integrate understanding or comprehension, and then when we say that every syllable that is spelled is a spark, so it just means that um when it's spark, so we just we have to there is an integration of sound when we speak every syllable of the words or the phrases that we are speaking. That's it,
Thank you, Miss Bell. You're right. When you start to read, it is as if you are lighting a fire, no? And then when you start, no, when you start to read syllables, most especially words, and would develop into phrases and sentences, it would be a very fulfilling moment for an individual. So it's a spark when you are starting to read a syllable. Maybe we can also listen from Chrissy. Chris, I'm sure Chris has a lot of insights also to share with Sir Victor Hugo's quotation. Chris?
Crispy Shine Minggito.
Or maybe anyone in this virtual space who can also share a few lines about Sir Victor Hugo's quotation. Maybe Miss Milan or Miss Jan Rodriguez?
Yes, Milaine Kadimas.
Yes, want to share as well my understanding with regards to this quote from Mr. Victor Hugo. So again, to learn to read is to light a fire. Every syllable that is spelled is a spark. So with every syllable that we are teaching to our students, it's like basically a step by step process. And as what we all know, for us to create a fire, there is like little sparks that will be created, and before we create the fire we still have to produce more sparks so that we can go into creating it. So just like learning or like teaching the students to learn how to read, we have to properly teach them each of the syllables and how to pronounce them properly so that they will come to a point that they can definitely learn the whole words and read up to a specific like a whole paragraph themselves.
Thank you very much, Miss Lillian, no, for that sharing. That's true, no? I am very hopeful that the future teachers coming from Foundation University would become the light for our learners, so that they would also be able to read not only the basic skills in reading, but making reading a very meaningful activity in their lives. Okay, so thank you very much for that, and I hope I can see a lot now in the screen here so that I can call a number of students who would be sharing also to us, no, some thoughts. All right. So because we find reading a very significant indicator for us to be successful in school, let's just have this 1 minute recall on how we were trained or how we were taught to read. When you enter the formal school, what did your teacher do to you so that you'll be able to read? Okay, let's have a flashback of our elementary level years, maybe from the kindergarten or from the grade 1. Niadtong grade 1 pa mo or niadtong kindergarten pa mo, unsa mo pagtudlo, pagbasa sa ato ang mga maestra. No? Sige, let's have a 1 minute sharing later. And let's have a little flashback of how we were taught and how to read when we were in our elementary level. Ms. Giselle, maybe I can have some names, Ms. Giselle, so that I can call them. And
Students, you may also raise your hands if you want to answer.
I'm sorry because I have only a few
Um,
students here on my screen. Yes, Ma'am Joyce. Good morning, Ma'am Joyce.
Hello. Hello,
Yes,
Ma'am Ragay. Good morning.
Nice to see you here.
Likewise, ma'am. Likewise. Well, as I recall, when I was in first grade, I was primarily I was threatened by my mom, who's also a
Your first teacher.
yeah. It's reality kicks in. When you're during our time, you read or not. That is your problem. So with my mom being a teacher back then, may palo. Every mistake may palo.
Well,
Okay,
that's a great
so
discipline.
yeah, exactly. Yung bang natuto kami, we learned how to read because we were afraid, basically. Because it was like that back then. Okay, and we were given the abacada. It was a booklet. It has the A, E, I, O, U and all of that. And every night, my mom saw to it that
The
before we go to
mommy,
bed,
mumu, and the all.
yeah, the mami mi momo, the tate tito too, and all of that. So anyway, that's how we were, the three of us. That's how we started reading, and that's how we were accustomed to all of the syllables and all of that stuff. And of course, with my mom holding this stick, making sure that every syllable and every ta and every te and every pa and every pu is were said correctly. So that's how I remembered my my first grade.
It
Thank you,
was,
ma'am.
yes, thank you very much, Ma'am Joyce, for sharing. No, probably those were very effective. No, the discipline and the method that they used, the mami ni mumu as the criteria method, probably were very effective during those times. No, but this time, well, the palo and the bunal bunal is prohibited already in the classroom, but in the homes, no? In the homes, we can do that, but in the classroom, certainly cannot do that anymore. And well, of course, the change of time, the change of behavior of the learners, and the change of interest also of the learners are also factors affecting their literacy development skills. So thank you very much, Ma'am Joyce. No, that was your way of learning to read, but it was very effective. Maybe we can have one sharing on how he or she was able to read and how was the teaching of reading then, so that he or she will be able to read. Miss Giselle, maybe you can have another another hand from a learner here, from a student.
Can we hear from April Joy Antonio?
April Joy. Yes, April Joy. I love your name. I have one student before from FE also, April. April Iroha. She's now a teacher. Yes, April? April is not around probably. Let's have another.
How about CJ?
John Ulrich. Yes.
Okay.
John. I love the voice of John. If you would well, share to us how was he taught to read when he was in the elementary level. John?
Yes, ma'am. So, since my Lola was a teacher before, she forced me to. She should. She forced me to read snippets, like for example, a short snippet from a story, and then. But first, we started off as kanang by syllables only, like the sounds. We started with sounds, and then
You also
as the
have that
first.
Mami Me Momo, John?
Yes, ma'am. Also had that one. She had to write something on a board, and
That was at
then
home. That was at home, John.
yes, because my Lola was a teacher, elementary teacher before,
Uh,
and then she also did a reward thingy for me. So if I can read some syllables, then I can go outside. So before I can go outside and play with my friends, I need to read like maybe 10 syllables or 15. And if I can like finish it on time, then I'll have more time playing outside.
so how was it? Was it a very good learning to you, John? Was reading very easy in your part?
Yes, ma'am. When I was in kindergarten, I knew already how to read. Yes, and my teachers before was very like very supportive also. That's why they cultivated my reading.
So that was from your Lola. When you reached the formal school, when you went to your grade one or kindergarten or grade one, but how was the teaching of reading then?
The transition from my Lola
Oh,
to the
yes,
formal school, ma'am,
yes,
somewhat familiar, somewhat similar also. It's
somewhat similar.
because yeah, because my Lola was an elementary teacher, so um she knows something fundamentals about it, technicalities. And then when I started going to school at an early age sa mga kindergarten, I was shocked because they had the same koan, they have the same um,
Strategy.
strategy and techniques. So it was easier for me to learn again and to like
So
improve my reading.
thank you very much, John, for the sharing. That's right, no? And I've learned two things here. Putting discipline, probably it was a little bit harsh for the sharing of Mom Joyce. And the reward system from John were, I think, effective in order for the two of them to read. John was so blessed to have a Lola, and Mom Joyce was also blessed to have a mother was a teacher. Uh, who taught these two to read before going to the formal school. How blessed are you, no, to have this instructional support from the homes, from your Lola, from your mother, and even from your titas or from your aunties or from your mother or your father. So those were the strategies and techniques that they used so that the two of you will be able to read. Thank you very much for the sharing, John and Ma'am Joyce. No? So that was a beautiful sharing. That the first sharing from Ma'am Joyce was discipline was implemented so that she'll be able to learn to read with the strategies from her Lola, the mommy with the criteria method of the Lola, the mommy ni Momo. But according to John, even during his time also, the syllables were also introduced as if they were similar to how Mom Joyce had learned the skills in reading. But the beautiful thing with John was there was a reward, but it was also beautiful during the time of Mom Joyce to have discipline. No, the motivating factor there is the discipline for Mom Joyce, and the motivating factor for John was the reward. And both of them have learned to read, but basically the techniques that their Lola and the mother of Mom Joyce were similar according to John when he reached the formal school, when the formal reading was introduced in the formal school. So thank you very much for the sharing, no? So that's it, no? We were able to read on the different ways, on the different strategies, and the different techniques. Well, coming from our supportive parents and supportive uh, relatives at home. Okay, so my friends, let's have a little flashback of the elements of reading instruction. There are essential elements of reading instruction. The first one is phonemic awareness. Then phonics is very significant. Vocabulary is, I understand, a very significant indicator that you will perform better in the school if you are rich and you have the wealth of vocabulary. Fluency is very significant, most especially in talking about accuracy and speed in reading. And of course, the very important element in reading is comprehension. Everything becomes futile if comprehension is not well developed. All right. So when you talk about phonemic awareness, it is let's have a short recall of this so that we'll go to fuller approach in a while. Let's just have a little background of the elements of reading, because if these elements of reading are not being established and are not being developed to the individual learner, then everything will be of difficulty. Okay, so deficits will still be experienced by our learners if the following elements will not be well developed. And I understand a fuller approach is a full approach because it introduces the basic of reading, and it also is developing the comprehension at the early level of learning. So when you talk about phonemic awareness is the specific ability to focus on and manipulate individual sounds, like the phonemes in spoken words. Like, for instance, if your name is Catherine, so there are different sounds in the word Catherine, so there are three syllables, Catherine, no? So those are the individual specific sounds or the phonemes of the spoken words. So that's phonemic awareness. That is why when we are taught to read in a formal school or even at home, sometimes our instructional supports would give us rhymes, or sometimes they give us exercises of clapping so that we'll be able to identify the phonemes or to be aware of the phonemes of the different spoken words. Okay, so that's phonemic awareness. Another, sorry, another uh, another element of reading is teaching us the understanding of the sound and letter relationships in a language. So it is the sound and the letter relationship of the language. So this is phonics. That is why I understand Ma'am Erlene is emphasizing fuller approach here because the very significant element of teaching reading, the basics of reading, or the emergent literacy, or the basic reading skills is phonics. So again, phonics is the understanding of the sound and the letter relationship in a language. Another element of reading is vocabulary. Just like what I have told you a while back, vocabulary is an indicator that we are successful in our reading skills and that we'll be able to comprehend the material that we are reading because of vocabulary. Because this vocabulary would enable us to understand the meaning of the word that we are reading. So vocabulary is an understanding of the meaning of the word or the words in the literacy or in the literature that we are reading. Another element, which is very important also, is fluency. When you say fluency, it is the ability for us, for an individual, to read the text with accuracy, with speed, not the right speed, and of course, the most important is expression. Um, you cannot be called fluent in reading. Fluency is not being developed or mastered if your development is only focused on accuracy. All the words are perfectly read. With this talking about speed, well, the speed was also perfect. However, the reader doesn't have any expression when reading. So it is not fluent still because there are three very important contexts in fluency. It's the accuracy of the words, the speed of reading, and the expression. Like for instance, if you're going to read a sentence, my mother is happy, if the learner is just reading it this way, my mother is happy. Well, there are only two elements of fluency that are being mastered there, accuracy and the speed. However, there is one very significant element of fluency that is not developed. It's the expression. So may I request Ma'am Kathleen, because Ma'am Kathleen is a very good reader with fluency. Sige, Ma'am Kath, let's get involved in this, Ma'am Kath. I understand Ma'am Kath is still there. Ma'am Kath, are you still there? Sige. So yeah, because I enjoyed a lot when Catherine would.
Hello, Ma'am Nilit. Hello, Ma'am Nilit.
Yes, Ma'am Cathy.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am Catherine. So I was talking about fluency, Ma'am Catherine, and
Yes, ma'am.
there are three elements in fluency for an individual to become fluent in reading. Accuracy must be there, and speed must be there. However, if there is no expression in your reading, then that is not fluency. Like for instance,
Yes.
I have shared to them a sentence like, if you are going to let your learner read a sentence like, my mother is happy, that way, is that fluency, is fluency developed there, Ma'am Kathy?
There is none because the expression is not showing the way she's reading the text.
If you are
There's,
going to read it, Ma'am Kath, with fluency, how would it be?
ma'am, may I know, may I hear again the sentence?
My mother is happy.
My mother is happy. So there's an expression so that there's understanding
Perfect.
there.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Kathy. So that's fluency. So
Thank you.
this is, thank you very much, Ma'am Kathy, for sharing. So this is one very important element when we are going to develop reading among our learners. And of course, the very important element for us to become a reader is comprehension. So when you say comprehension, it is the ability to read the text, process the text, process the text, and then, well, of course, understand the meaning of the text being read. Okay, so those are the very significant or essential elements for an individual to become a reader. Okay, sige. So I hope those elements are well developed among our learners. Soon, no, this fourth year students, when you are going to go to the field, the real battlefield will really enhance your skills in developing reading. Okay, so please take note of the very significant elements of reading, no? So the first one was on phonemic awareness, then phonics, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. Okay, so let's try to go back to teaching phonics because the fuller approach is emphasizing phonics here. Just like the Marunko approach, while Marunko is being shared to our learners in the native language and also in teaching reading in Filipino, teaching English, reading in English is being introduced through fuller approach. Okay, so let's try. Let's try to recall on how English, uh, teaching reading in English is being taught in uh, our learners. So let's have a short recall, the procedures, or the procedure in teaching children how to read in English. Okay, so if you are going to teach reading in English, how would it be? If Ma'am Kathy was using Marunko approach in teaching reading in the mother tongue and in Filipino, how about in English? So how is reading in English being taught, considering that phonics is very important in teaching reading, or phonics as a very essential skill in teaching reading? Okay, so let's have a quick view on how reading in English is being taught. First one is teach the mastery of name and the form of the alphabet. So teach mastery of name and form of the alphabet in the English language. It's the same with Marunko approach. In Marunko approach, you've got to let our learners master the sounds of the different letters of the alphabet. So in English also, we've got to let our learners master the corresponding sound of the different letters of the alphabet, knowing from the basic sounds or starting from the basic sounds of the different letters of the English alphabet. While it's true that Filipino alphabet with 28 letters is considered as an almost perfect alphabet in the world. If I can remember it right, Filipino alphabet is considered as one of the almost perfect alphabet in the world. Why do you think it's one of the almost perfect alphabet in the world? Maybe some of you know already on the significance of having our alphabet with 28 letters as well, we are very proud now. It's almost a perfect alphabet. Why? Because we are going to look at the different sound correspondence of every letter of the alphabet of the Filipino alphabet. There is a distinct sound in every letter. Unlike the English alphabet, no, English language alphabet, every letter has varied sounds. So meaning to say, like for instance, letter A has different sounds. No, may na ay a. Okay, A can be also read as A. Letter A can also be read as A. No? So there are different sounds in every letter. Most importantly, kanang mga vowel letters. No, so yun ana siya. And when we introduce the English letters to our learners, we start from the basic, and the rest of the sounds of every letter will be introduced at the later part. So we introduce the basic sound first of the different letters of the alphabet in English. So teach mastery of the name and the form of the letters. So when you teach the letter name, you also teach the sound corresponding to every letter, every letter. And then teach the regular sounds of consonants. Ma'am Kathy was also introducing the consonants a while back in the Marunko approach. Just the same when we teach English, we also have to teach the regular sounds of the consonants. Okay, and then if you are going to teach reading in English, after you have let them master the sounds, the letter names, and then teaching the regular sounds of the consonants, then you go to um, the presentation of the list of words that use the same pattern. Say the first word have uh, the children read the rest of the words and then have them identify similarities and differences of the different words being introduced to our learners. And then after you have shared to them word families, then review a previous lesson until it is being mastered before you are going to introduce another sound of the alphabet. So this is how teaching reading also in the English language is being done. There are commonalities, however, on the presentation, it differs because the way we also read English is also different from the syllables in our mother tongue and in Filipino. Okay, so let's go to fuller approach. If you are going to say fuller approach, what comes into your mind and what can you remember about fuller approach? I mean, fuller approach was developed long time ago, before the Marongko approach was introduced. Fuller was there already. In fact, when I was in grade one, I was also already introduced to the fuller approach of teaching reading by my teachers in grades 1, 2, and 3. Basically, I was so lucky then, although I was not lucky to have, I was not, well, I wouldn't like to use the word lucky, but I wasn't able to have a very good instructional support at home in terms of literacy, in terms of reading. I learned my reading skills when I already entered in the formal school. But I was so grateful and I was so thankful with my teachers in the elementary level. I was I was in a public school. I spent my elementary level in my uh, hometown school. No, I am from Batingil Elementary. I am from Batingil, therefore I studied in Batingil Elementary School. So I was blessed to have very good teachers, very good literacy teachers in my primary years. No, I joined kindergarten and then uh, my kindergarten skills were strengthened by my grade one teacher. I happen to also have been handled by a very good grade one teacher. So the significance of our success in learning to read is from our teacher. So the teacher here uh, is the very key of making us able to read in the school. No? So a key factor of learning to read is the teacher. Therefore, if the government has to spend a lot so that education will be of quality, therefore, the government has to also spend a lot to the human resource in teaching the teachers. Okay, so training is very significant for our teachers to be able to deliver quality education to our learners. Okay, so that's it, no? And then just like what I had told you, review a previous lesson, just like what Ma'am Kathy had said, introduce the consonants, which are primary to the tongue of the learners. Like, that is why Marungko introduced letter M, no, as the basic or the very first sound that a child probably would learn in, in emergent literacy, letter M. So after letter M has been mastered, then introduce some words, stories even, because when we are going to introduce a letter to the learners, we've got to see to it that we are using literature as our springboard for learning. And then after a sound has been mastered, then let's move on to the next sound until all the consonants, all the letters of the alphabet, of the Filipino alphabet or the English alphabet are being mastered. Okay, do you have questions on this regard? I hope my friends are still with me. Hello, everyone. Are you still there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, so how I wish I can have the one ba, kanang the flash of here, kanang mga learners, no? So that I can also call them. Okay, I hope my participants are there. Let me check my participants. I have here Angel. So is Angel there? Angelica Ramirez, are you there? Ma'am Angelica? Miss Angelica? Okay, thank you very much. Miss Bernadette, hello and good morning. Sherry May Rodriguez. Ma'am Chrissy, thank you, Ma'am Chris. Good morning.
Hello, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning, Ma'am Chris. I hope I am understood, Ma'am Chrissy, no? Ma'am Chin,
Yes, yes, Doc.
salamat. And Sir Iping, mayong buntag. Sir Felipe, Dr. Felipe, mayong buntag.
Hi, Doc. Good morning.
Dapat mag-ingat ako sa aking kasi nandiyan si Sir Felipe. Okay, all right. No? So, we also have Janine, Miss Janine Rose Demadi. I hope.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Yes, Ma'am Janine. I hope my discussion is clear to you, Ma'am Janine.
Yes, ma'am. It's very clear.
Thank you very much. No? Okay, so let's go to the fuller approach. I hope maybe some of you already have heard fuller approach. John Ulrich Luna.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Any sharing of fuller approach, John? What's your experience of fuller approach, John? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Fuller approach is, um, 'di ba, it's more like in the beginning of reading, 'di ba? So I think that my experience for me will probably be like I have the reward system. Like before reading, I get to have as much as I want before, and pizza bikin ay ko. Excuse me for this mga kaya ako'y bata mga kabantay ba ito?
Kabantay ba? Kabantay bata. Kabuutan ba? Kabantay bata. Okay, thank you very much. John, also, let's try, John, if the way you were taught in your grade one year, no, in your grade one experience, John, are the same with how Elizabeth Fuller had introduced this Fuller approach. Okay, so thank you very much, John. So let's go to the Fuller
Thank you,
approach.
ma'am.
Thank you very much. And let's go to the Fuller approach. Fuller approach, it has something similar with the Maroko approach in some ways. However, the Fuller approach is used in teaching English, most especially the phonics. No? So Fuller approach is used in teaching English phonics and is only a variety of the many techniques because there are a lot of techniques that you can use in teaching phonics, English phonics, no? And one of the very significant and very effective techniques and approaches of teaching reading is the Fuller approach. Okay, probably John was talking about the reward system that he had when he was taught to read by his Lola, and it was very effective for him. And with Fuller approach, probably with Fuller approach in because according to John, he said that in grade one he has something similar with what his Lola had taught him in also the formal school in grade one. Okay, so let's try to recall Fuller approach in a while. No? So Fuller approach, just like any other approaches, is also very effective in teaching reading, basic reading in the English language, right? The English language. Okay, so why did I say fuller approach? Because in my primary years, in my basic education, the elementary level, I was also introduced to fuller approach. And it was very effective in my elementary levels. Right. So fuller approach, if you can recall, for those who are also taught the basic literacy in English, is a combination of the alphabet, uh, words, whole methods of teaching, and word recognition. It was introduced by Richard and Elizabeth Fuller in teaching reading. Okay? So how is Fuller approach being taught? So there are principles of teaching the Fuller approach. Number one, the mastery of the names of the letters of the alphabet, the shapes of the letters of the alphabet. That is why Ma'am Kathy had introduced us as as we introduce the letter and as we also introduce the sound. Let's not forget to let our students or let our learners write also, no? Write also or form the shapes of the letter of the alphabet through our body, no? So pwede ng ato ang kamot or pwede ang ato ang body maoy mo himo or mo associate sa shape sa letra, no? Like letter A, our body can probably form the shape of letter A so that the learner should be able to familiarize the shape of the letters of the alphabet. Okay, so ang prinsipyo sa pagtudlo maoni na ang mastery of the names and the shapes must also be considered, and the letter sounds of the alphabet must also be mastered. And then the very significant also principle of teaching for phonics is there should be adequate vocabulary. So that is why, because English is considered as a third language for others and second language for others and even first language of some learners in our country. But basically in the public schools, English is considered as the second language or the third language among our learners. No? So when we introduce English to them, probably some of them, no, most especially for those who are from the remote areas, naglisod o sabot sa mga pulong sa English. No? So that is why, as much as possible, we have to build as teachers, as future teachers, we've got to enrich the vocabulary of our learners. That is why every day we've got to introduce to them some words in English through our word wall or mga charts, no? And of course, the very important figures, no, the pictures along with the words being introduced. Because if there are a lot of strategies also in introducing vocabulary, and for the primary level, picture clues is one of the very significant strategy in enriching their vocabulary. So when you introduce a word, there must be a picture along with that word. Okay, so that vocabulary, if they are going to read the word, there is already meaning on the word for them. Okay, sige. So what are the steps? I actually have just identified and called out the basic steps in teaching the Morungko approach. No? So you start with the beginning sound through literature. That is why when we introduce si Ma'am Kathy ganina sa Morungko, she introduced the story in introducing a letter and the sound of the letter of the alphabet. Just the same with English, we've got to make literature as our springboard because we are not isolating reading skill from the meaningful learning of the child, the learner. So when we introduce a sound, we introduce also a story for that sound to be introduced. So literature is very important also in teaching beginning sound to the children. So start with the beginning sound through literature and then show the letter and the sound. But don't forget to also show pictures of that letter word that you have introduced to our students, because just like what I have told you, if you are going to introduce something, it must be meaningful to the learning of the child. So a picture is very necessary because ang ato ang ginuman taon is fuller, which is introduced to the basic literacy. No? So picture is very significant when we introduce the letter sounds of the alphabet. So just like what I had told you, so if you have introduced the letter, the sound of the letter, along with the picture, then let the child write on air, on the floor ba, or at the back of the learner. They will enjoy in the face-to-face modality. However, with the situation that we have, in our division, in our schools, in the public schools, we cannot expect our students, our learners, our pupils to have gadgets at home. That is why generally we implement the uh, distance learning through printed modules as our modality of continuing education amid pandemic. Okay, and then after you have introduced the picture, solicit from them other sounds with the initial sound of the letter you have introduced to them. So sila na po ipahatago nimo og mga pictures or mga pulong nga nagsugod sa letra nga imong gi-introduce. Maybe you can also even ask them from your bag, inside your bag, what are the things that have the same initial sound of the letter that I have introduced. So that's it. No, so ask some other things or names that start with the introduced letter A. And then after you have introduced the sound, the crucial there is, that is why one of the problems why our learners still cannot read even if they have mastered already the sound is the process of blending. There is a difficulty of blending the sound. So usa na sa mga problema nga giatubang sa ato ang mga kabataan. Although they know the different sounds already na master na, but there is no mastery on blending the different sounds of the alphabet. So usa na sa mga problema. Kamaon ang bata sa sound, kamaon sa letra, kamaon na siya. But ang bata wala maghiyahi on how the child would blend the different sounds na iyahang na master. So the next step is blending sounds through word families. Okay, so in Fuller, munang very significant ang Fuller because it introduced the word family. Masa man yung mga word family kato mga words nga parehas of ending sounds, no? Parehas pod og kanang syllables. Okay, like for example, the words that I have introduced here, the word E family, no? So we have F, like N, Ed, L, and all, like pet, bet, like this, no? So these are the word family of E, letter E, letter E, okay? But if you are going to the short sound, the short vowel sound of letter E, but if you are going to enclose this in a virgule, katubang mga slash, those are called virgules. So if you are going to enclose the letter E there, the letter E in virgules, it would become E, no? So the word E family. Okay, so we have samples here. I have only a few, but I have taken from a source now also. Some pictures with the different sounds, no? Using the word family. So like for instance, this one here, very significant ang Fuller approach because of the word family and very famous yet, very familiar ang ato ang Fuller method because of the word family. So the word families of add, no, or add, like bad, mad, pad. So these are the word families that we can introduce to our learners. So when Mangkapi had blended letter M and a while back in the Marungko approach, because just like what I have told you, you cannot actually in the Filipino alphabet there are letters that you cannot just blend together. That is why you got to introduce those words through basic sight words, no, the Deutsch words, no. So there are words that you cannot be blend. So there are synthetic and analysis of words which you cannot just introduce to them through blending the sounds and form a word or form a syllable. That is why introducing them as sight words is very significant. Like the word the, you cannot just produce the sound like as the. You cannot do that. That is why you introduce the word the to them as a basic sight word or a sight word for them. So you introduce them without sounding out the different letters of the alphabet. So dili pwede na i-blend siya kay by blending them through the sounds. No, that is why there are some words that are being introduced as basic words or sight words. You've got to introduce it to them because there are some synthetic words and it needs to also be analyzed. So the synthetic analysis of blending the sounds and the analytic introduction of the words. So here, sa Fuller method, it's very easy for the learners to blend the sound of the alphabet. Okay, so these are it. And then if you are done already introducing some words using the word families of the different short letter sounds of the different vowels of the alphabet, just like what I have told you, teach the basic first. That is why when you introduce the vowels, the basic sounds first. For letter A, you only introduce the letter A, the sound of A there, for the beginning literacy learning. So introduce the short sounds of the different vowels of the alphabet. And then if they are good already, then you can also introduce phrases. And after the phrases, so words, phrases, you can also share sentences. And eventually, you will go to the introduction of a story. So, yung ani kanindot ang paggamit of fuller approach, no? Because we can introduce words through the word families. So just like this, no? A family of Anne. So can, fan, a family of at, cat. May I request the students, no? Maybe we can have Del Makiling. If Del is there, I call Del, no, kanina, but maybe Del is not there. Mia Singgit, no? Si Mia, na ba si Mia? Or Mila, Charmaine, are you there? Para makabumog po sa mga tingog, mga linig na mga estudyante sa FU. Yes, Mia? If Mia is there. Wala siguro si Mia or Lacey. Lacey Michelle Babor, are you there? Or maybe let's call another. If kani si Juan, Nika, are you there? Basin Giselle, wala ni sila. Ilaharang mga
Hello, ma'am.
Yes. Yes. Yes, Chris. Sige, ikaw, Chris. Kindly read the columns there. Chris, para may participation naman ang mga estudyante na naminaw karon. Chris, sige.
Is it me, ma'am, Crestila?
Sige, Chris. Wala ko
Ay, okay.
Chris. Ikaw na lang, Chris. Christiana.
Am I just gonna read it, ma'am, from
Sure.
family of Anne to family of Egg?
Sure. I love that.
But okay, for the family of Anne, we have can, fan, man, pan, ran, van.
Good.
Okay.
That's good. Maayo
And
kang
to
pagkatudlo, Chris.
ma'am?
Maayo kang pagkatudlo sa imuhang grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 teacher.
Yes, ma'am. Ganay bunal.
Yeah, we can attribute this, our skill in reading can be attributed to our primary level teachers, I think. So they are very significant in our lives in terms of basic literacy. Yes, Chris.
Okay, let's proceed to the family of at. We have cat, fat, mat, rat, sat, and bat.
Very
Okay,
good.
let's proceed to the family of oat.
Ought.
Ought. Okay, ought. Okay, we have cot, dot, got, hot, lot, and not.
Right.
Okay, we have the family of on. I don't know if that was right. On. We have fun, gun, none, run, and bun.
Okay.
Okay, let's proceed to the last two. We have ed, we have bed, red, led, fed, and ted. Okay, to the last family, we have egg, we have beg, leg, and peg.
All right. Thank you very much, Chris. And also, those are the words that we can introduce to our learners. And please don't forget that if you are going to introduce these words, the basic rules or the basic introduction of these words, come along with pictures. And don't be too conscious of the words because you can also introduce nonsense words. Our very significant skill that we're introducing here is on the kanang blending of the sounds, no, using the word family. Pwede na itong magamit ang mga nonsense words na mga pwede i-go na to sa different word families. And then if you are done with the words, then you can proceed to the sharing of phrases, sentences, and short stories like the red hen, in the net, and the bat has a pet. Thank you very much, Chris. No, I'm so proud that uh, our students are also participating. And congratulations, FU, for having that very eloquent reader here and at the same time speaker. Stella, congratulations. So these are the examples of phrases. All right. So just like what I had told you, you introduce the words, and then after introducing the words, you can proceed to the phrases. And after the phrases, so the level of difficulty here is rising. You know? So after you have introduced phrases, then sentences. So it's very important that they have mastered, you know, the different word families so that you can introduce them to phrases, you can bring them to reading of sentences, and then, of course, very important is the introduction of stories to them. So through the word families, you can make or craft a story. The learners can even craft their own stories using language experience approach, no? And using still of the different word families. Okay, so they can even make their own story and they can even form their own sentences. Okay, and please don't forget the very important skill here. After reading the story or after reading the sentences, please don't forget to introduce them to the very important skill, which is comprehension. Okay, so these are still samples of phrases and sentences, and then the comprehension build up. If you have introduced sentences or stories, short stories to them, be sure that you are introducing the CVC, no? Ayun sa itong mga complicated words. Ang CVC lang sa consonant, vowel, consonant words like red, so consonant R, consonant E, vowel E, and consonant D. The CVC first in the introduction of simple word family. So like for instance, the story here, please don't forget that you also are going to build the comprehension, checking the comprehension of the learners also. So like for instance, if the story here starts with the sentence, the red fan is in the bag of Nene, and the bag is on the mat, and the mat is on the bed. So checking the understanding of the children after reading the story, you can also ask them questions related to the story, like what is in the bag, or who owns the bag, or where is the bag. So at the same time, building their literacy skills and bringing them to understanding the story. So how are we going to introduce the word families? So there are also sequences of introducing word families to our learners. Right, so start from the short vowel words in consonant, vowel, consonant pattern. Okay, just like what I have told you, mag-una sa mga short vowel sound words, no? Like for the vowels A, E, I, O, U, start from the short vowel sounds first. I enclosed letter E here in Virgil, so this will already be sound as E. So E in pen, A in bat, I in bit, A in caught, and in sun. So start from here, no, from the short vowel sounds of the alphabet. And then after those are being introduced to our learners, then start introducing consonant blends. And please don't forget that there are initial and final blends, the onset and the line. No? So at the onset, so initial blend, ato na mga blend that mo introduce if they have mastered already the short vowel sound. So initial blend, like for example, k as in crab and bl as in black. Or for the final blend or the rhyme, it's both as in belt and meat as in bent. All right. Okay, so that is for the consonant blends. And please don't forget to also have the consonant digraphs because we also have the consonant digraphs, like for instance, sh as in ship and fish. I have intentionally introduced ship and fish here as the at the beginning and at the end. So onset and line. The here as in chip and pitch. So kanang initial and also at the final. And then after the mastering of the short and the blending of all those, then go introduce the long vowel sound words, still using the word family. Okay, like bake, no? So tanan nga mga A, imong ilaray diha, like bake, cake, rake, and all. Okay, and then all those long vowel sound words will also be introduced. And for meaningful learning, please don't forget to bring along with you or draw along with the words some pictures. And then please don't forget also that we have to introduce them to diphthongs. No? So oil as in oil as in toy, and aw as in thought, aw as in saw, and ow as in out, and ow as in how. And the vowel digraphs also as in O as in goat, E as in sea, and E in sheep, and A in hail. And the other one is homonyms. No? So C, mainumdum ko sa una when I was in the elementary level, our teachers, after introducing the word families of short vowel sounds and the long vowel sounds, iyaming idalhon sa pagbasa sa mga homonyms, no? So meat. So look at the spelling, the tail, pain, namemorya po kunin mo. The drill was still very significant before, no? And I think even until now, introducing drills to our learners, no pattern drills to our learners is still very significant in terms of building or developing their literacy. Okay, so just the same, don't forget to introduce them to words, to phrases, to sentences, and even rhymes. No, so here we have be. All right, so this is me. First sentence, let it be. This is for me. And for the rhymes, you can have what can I be, or I can be a bee, I can be a red bee, I can be me. No? So, very interesting. Mga malipay ang atong mga bata. Ang ato lang is ang mga kabataan dapat kabataang gusto mahimong maestra is kugihan. Kugihan nga mogama og instructional materials so that learning will be facilitated well in the classroom or even in the virtual rooms, no? And even in the long distance through printed materials, it would be very meaningful. That is why in the office, we actually are very grateful to our supervisors because they have developed work texts on on this, the fuller method of teaching reading in English for grade 3. And Ma'am Catherine has introduced Marongko word text for our grade 1, and Marongko for grade 2 also in Filipino. So this is how we are building reading or literacy skills, beginning reading skills to our learners through Marongko and fuller approaches. Okay, so I guess those are the very significant details when we are going to introduce fuller method or fuller approach to our learners. Before going to our activity, I am open for clarifications or questions before going to our activity.
Hi, Ma'am Ragay, Dr. Kavan.
Yes, Ma'am Joyce.
Yes, um, I just want to know. I just want to know if there are specific rules in regard to the uses of the OI and the O, the OI and the OY. Because when I taught when I taught first grade back to States, there were rules. There were rules like the OI, the OY specifically are placed on the last part of the word, like toy, joy, soy, boy, whatever. And then the OI could be stated or could be found in the middle, like boil, soil, coil, that kind of thing. Are there, this is, because I'm pretty much familiar with the Fuller. Will this be, I think it will be great also, Ma'am Ragay, if there'll be some materials or for the student teachers. Okay, kasi mahirap ituro yan eh, because it's a matter of how the mouth is being trained to do so. And especially when they get to the other blends like the IGHT, the ITE, how will they know it's an IGHT, that it's not gonna be igat, okay, or igahata? It's gonna be it, or the or in or, the or in ORE, and so on and so forth. It's just an add-on, Dr. Ragay.
Yeah, thank you very much for that.
Because based on my experience, I had a student in first grade way back, and it still tickles me to the bone whenever I remember the word fork, FORK. All right. So I asked the students, all right, give me a word that has an OR in or. Okay, so they gave me words, and then this particular student, and I still remember her name, Deandra Miller. Okay, she said fork, FORK, pero sabi niya fork. Sabi ko, what? And then all the students were like, she said a bad word. So I was like, no, that's not a bad word. And then so I said, Deandra, do you mean fork as the partner of spoon? And then she said yes. So I said, so it's FORK. Wow, very good. You said it the way you want to say it. But let us just go back. Okay, so I reviewed it. And still, Dr. Ragay, so okay siya ha, sasabihin ko lang, fork. So she will also say or fork. And then when I say, all right, say it now, Deandra, fork. Nawawala pa rin yung OR. So I guess it's still up to now, and that student is already married and is already a teacher back in the States. So anyway, ang ano ko lang, kasi siguro part na rin ba, is it part of their development na rin, Dr. Ragay, that eventually they will get used to it without us really giving them the specific rules? Will they outgrow it? Will they eventually, as years go by, when they are exposed to reading, will they just learn it?
They will actually learn it as they go. In fact, kita, Ma'am Joyce, no, as we also develop ourselves, no, we're able also to learn the things which were not taught by our teachers. No, but there is no hard and fast rule as to which is which is to be taught first, and which is to be.
Uh-huh.
But basically, if you are going to have that pattern drill on choice, eventually, without blending, because there are, just like what I had said, there are words that are not introduced through blending. That is why you introduce them as sight words. No, so with a pattern drill, using the sight words and using the word family of introducing these words, like for instance the IGHT, and if you have a lot of words there as their drill, then eventually they'll be able to learn also. And automatically, or the automaticity of learning will be developed from them, most especially if these are used as sight words.
Yeah, yeah. Because that's what I told my students back then. I honestly told them, basically, class, there's no rule. You just have to go with it. You know, there's no rule. How would I? Because a lot of them will ask me, kasi Mrs. Cavan doon, walang doctor. Mrs. Cavan, how will we know if it's IGHT or ITE or what have you? So I just tell them honestly. Well, you know what? It's just a matter of getting used to it. There's no rule. Okay. Yeah.
We introduce with pictures.
Exactly. Okay, it's just an add-on, Dr. Ragay. I just wanna share that. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you so much also, Ma'am Joyce. Actually, before we are going to introduce letters to the learners, no, we also have to associate them with the different speech articulators, NATO. And the speech mechanism is very significant, most especially if you are going to introduce the sounds of the alphabet. And you've got to let them be familiarized with the different parts of our speech mechanism, like the upper lip, the lower lip, the ridge, and all, the palate, the tongue. In fact, if you are going to introduce the sounds, let them wash their hands, and so that they can also touch different parts of the speech mechanism. That is why some of our learners, they have a difficulty of producing the sound of letter Z, no, and then letter F. If you're going to the public schools, Ma'am Joyce, letter F is very difficult for them to pronounce. Like, fan, maglisod na sila o sulti o fan.
And let me add, Dr. Ragay, let me add also the TH, the Z, and the that's also a challenge, especially with kasi it's the tongue, the teeth, it's everything like it's working together. And to distinguish when you're gonna read it with the Z or with the
it takes a very good and
exactly
to teach that, no, kanang TH. That is why when I was in grade 1, I always let them wash kung sounds na me. I told them, my learners, to wash their hands so that they can also touch the speech part. Like for the TH, it's very difficult for our learners, but especially sa kabukiran ng Joyce. Isod kaayo ang TH nga itudos sa mga bata. Munang usahay ka ng math, they cannot say math. They would say math. Anak ka, no? Naulahi ba lang TH? So, but that is why it takes a very good and very creative teacher to introduce so that they can introduce these words, to introduce these sounds so that they can also speak well in the production of the words, the different words. Thank you very much for the sharing, Ma'am Joyce.